You have to have a toxic fan base for you to be uncancelable.
But him and The Rock,
like they tried the baby, and I was like, that's not gonna work.
they're trying with Dave Chappelle right now,
and that's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work.
And I don't even think Dave Chappelle has a toxic fan base. I think he just has a very critical one.
Yes.
So if he did something fucked up, I think they would hold him accountable
for sure.
But
what he's doing right now is like, no, come on, dog.
No, David's doing comedy.
Yeah,
it's funny. I saw.
Did you see? So you saw it. You actually saw what he said.
I watched the whole special multiple times.
So was there anything that you felt like he said where you were like, all right,
bro? Some people, they get bored and come up with problems to entertain themselves. If I went to a comedy show and somebody made a whole bunch of Ethiopian Muslim jokes, I don't then dislike the comedian. Like, it's maybe I didn't find it funny because I was offended. I could still be offended about it. But what I'm not about to do is spend any energy following up with them on Twitter.
If you're in the front row and he keeps saying the jokes and looking dead at you.
Bro, I pulled up to a comedy show in New York at the Comedy Cellar, and it was like 2-3 lesser known comedians, John Mulaney and Chris Rock. Every single one of them made jokes because the only reason we got into that comedy club was because the group at the front didn't show up. And we just showed up on some like, yo, did anyone not show up? We're trying to get in type. We just walked there because we were in Manhattan. And they let us in. So we walked in during the first comedian set. Now, you know, when you pull up to a comedy show, a lot of times the comedians aren't like in a separate green room. They're just in the tuck in the back, like in the dark. So they all saw me walking in late, and they made a whole bunch of why are all black people late jokes, but not generic ones. Like in funny ways, they integrated it into their set.
They'll join y'all niggas as you approach.
All of them. And you imagine like you could touch them. They're right here. And there's a comedy club full of people, and it's just funny. I didn't not once take offense to it that a white person was saying a black person being joke late. Didn't care. I pulled up to a comedy show. I'm expecting jokes to be made, dog. Some people just understand that, and some people don't. I get
just like looking at you saying Ethiopians are ugly as.
I'd be like, damn, that's how you feel
right here.
But it's like, you know what's the reality, John? Some people genuinely feel that way. And it's like, if you don't like East Africans,
no, stop it.
If you don't like East Africans, then that's literally your prerogative. You don't need to tell me that, dog. That's OD. But it's like, it's about how you interpret information. At the end of the day, what the argument was is that Dave Chappelle was saying things that they argued it was violence and that it was damaging to people. And I would argue that you need to prove it's damaging to people with more than just anecdotes. And not that because the anecdotes are not important, but because you trying to censor somebody, you need to provide like an overwhelming amount of evidence that what someone said is damaging. Like if I say, I hate people in blue shirts, I think they all smell like weed and are broke. Like people with blue shirts should be like, damn, why you feel that way? Maybe someone would get offended by that.
What color you wearing? What color shirt you wearing?
Look pretty blue to me.
Yeah, so both of y'all really. So, but if you told me, if Lo came to me and said,
comedy show.
I don't like that you said that, and I'll be like, damn, you don't really have to. But you arguing that what I said was violence and that, you know, it's going to inspire other people to hate blue shirts. It's like maybe like the people on stage have an influence 100%, but people still make decisions at the end of the day. And that's not to say influence is null and void, but it's just like, what? We got to, you know, Eminem said something interesting in that album that you didn't know nothing about, Curtain Call, where he was almost responding to the criticism that a lot of suburban like parents were pointing the finger at him saying he was a bad influence on kids. And he had a line I wish I knew verbatim, but he basically pointed the finger back at them and said, like, you chose to like allow your kids to watch me. They're your kids. If my influence is so bad, why don't they commit a crime and you convict me of it? He said something to that nature. He said it lyrically, and it sounded great in the song. And it's the same thing happening. The same thing that happened to Eminem in the early 2000s is what's happening to Dave Chappelle right now. They're trying to project a lot of, like, there's disadvantaged people in the world. I think it would be a sad world where we can't make fun of that. You know what I'm saying? The times I've gotten a chance to speak to people with disabilities, and keep in mind, I refereed wheelchair basketball for a bit in college. So I talked to people who, like, a lot of them had disabilities of some sort. The one thing they disliked more than anything else was people feeling pity for them. Because it's like, imagine everywhere you went, people just felt sorry for you. So if I hold the door open for someone who's able-bodied, it's the same way I hold the door for somebody who's in a wheelchair or have some kind of disability, because you don't need people to feel bad for you all your life. It's just not necessary. And I think being able to make jokes about people is part of like opening that door. And sometimes you can find healing through comedy. And Dave Chappelle gave a great example of someone who was trans that did exactly that found his comedy to be not only enlightening, but inspiring. And it helped inspire her comedy journey. So when you watch his whole special and you get to the end, you might even tear up if you just took a chance to listen to what he had to say and you weren't like in defense the whole time. And keep in mind, I'm a huge Chappelle fan, so...
But even when I heard it, it was nothing that I was like, this shit right here is like, yo, he going overboard. Like, he ODing. Like, it was nothing that he said that I felt like was OD. And what made it even worse is that I feel like a lot of people are not even listening to what he says. Like, they're just reacting because someone else is reacting. And then also, like, y'all niggas go to comedy clubs and get offended by jokes. It's like, niggas, stop going, bro. If you don't like the joke, if you want to hear jokes, or if you're that sensitive to what someone's going to say, don't go to a comedy club.
You know what the fucked up part about it is,
don't get that.
Is that, like, look, let's say you don't like Trump. Bro, mainstream media was making fun of him for his 4 years at presidency. Yeah. Nonstop. They were berating this man. You could argue a lot of the jokes that a lot of those late night talk show hosts made, or all those like cable television shows, all those jokes they made would inspire a lot of like violence by that same logic. Like we so openly make jokes about people that we're in opposition to, like maybe ideologically, but the second a joke is made at your expense, like it's something that has to be stopped.
Yeah, but but Chappelle said that before, like how he was at Comedy Central, and he was like, he had made a bunch of black jokes on his show, right? To a point where he literally has like a sketch where it's a white family and their last name is nigga. Not N-I-G-G-A.
I don't remember that one. I don't remember that one.
You don't remember that?
No.
And let me be clear, not N-I-G-G-A, the hard R. And they literally have a theme song for them. It's the nigga family. Like all that stuff. The milkman, Chappelle's playing the milkman. He's a black milkman. He's like, hey niggas, like he just comes in, says all that, and so like that's a running joke that their last name is niggas, right? So, it's literally a whole sketch.
All Caucasian school.
It's a whole sketch.
Niggas.
Literally.
Mr. Niggas. Have you seen this?
Anyway, so he's like, yo, I made that entire joke, and y'all didn't say not a word. Like nobody said nothing. But then he ironically did a sketch about gay people, and he said the F word. And then Comedy Central came up, he was like, yeah, can we not take that out? He was like, what? Like, at first, I think at first he said he agreed to it. He was like, but then he paused and thought, like, why are we taking it out? Why am I taking out that one word when I've literally had several different jokes about black people and y'all were all comfortable with that?
There was a skit about a slave draft where different races of people were at a draft about the...
a slave draft or a race draft?
Race draft, sorry.
Yeah.
A race draft.
Slave draft is crazy.
A race draft. And it was just making fun of like generic stereotypes about different races.
They didn't bring that back.
But it was hilarious though. And I remember thinking like, I missed that type of comedy. Even like Key and Peele was like a more mute version of that, but they still did some wild shit.
They did a slave draft.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they're the ones who Key and Peele were up there with a whole bunch of black people. And after like the third
they did. He's like, damn, I didn't get picked.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't get picked. Yeah, what's going on? He was like,
and then he would be like, next up, his competition would be like a bodybuilder. And he'd be like,
and then after the first week, he's like, I can understand why he got picked. Like he's nice and strong, burly. I understand that. And then the fourth person was like some fat tall guy. He was like, now hold on now for a second. Hold on, I don't understand what's going on. So yeah, shit like that is.
He made it seem like that was the goal.
Yeah. Like shit like that is like
fuck. Then I gotta wait another year.
To me, shit like that is hilarious, and I'm black, and I still find that shit hilarious.
Round 37 to 126 pick.
Crazy, Oh, and you know also crazy. Even in the like some of the deleted versions of like some of those the lost Chappelle episodes, the whole time machine, the time they would go back in time and shit like that, and they try to free the slaves. They also held that back because the dude like he played as a pimp. Chappelle plays as a pimp in this episode, and him and a bunch of other his pimp hating friends go back in time, and they try to liberate slaves. And in the whatchamacallit, like there's a scene where one of the slaves asks the time machine pimps like, how long it gonna take for us to be free? And in Chappelle as a time,
that's crazy. I had my head down. I just heard the pain in your acting. Do it again. Hold on.
He said, how long is it gonna take for us to be free? And then Chappelle as a fucking time machine nigga was like, how about you now? Pulls out a gun and shoots the slave owner. And then Comedy Central was like, let's hold back on that one for a second. I was like, nigga, what? And that shit was, to me, was fucking gold. I was dying. And then, like, so it bothers me because it's like, y'all niggas is okay with black people being made fun of.
It's everybody.
And white people being made fun of. And really almost anyone else being made fun of. But as soon as we start getting on y'all asses, and not even in a crazy way, nobody not even saying anything. Well, Chappelle, let me say not anyone. Chappelle wasn't even saying anything that nuts or crazy.
Yo, I was
come on, dog.